The first lie didn't sound like a lie. "Mom, I'll be traveling for work for a few weeks," my son Ion said casually over breakfast, barely looking up from his phone. "Big project, tight deadlines." I nodded, stirring sugar into my tea. He was 26 now, ambitious, always chasing new opportunities. Travel wasn't unusual for him. Still, something about his voice felt distant, like he was already halfway out the door. "When do you leave?" I asked. "Tonight," he said, "early flight." It was all so quick, too quick, but I pushed the feeling away. Mothers worry too much, I told myself. That's our default setting. That evening I hugged him at the gate. He smelled like the same sandalwood cologne he'd worn since university. "Take care of yourself," I whispered. "I always do," he said, smiling. "Don't worry." For the first week, everything seemed normal. He called once every 2 days. Short conversations, but warm enough to keep my concerns quiet. "How's the project?" I asked. "Busy," he'd reply. "Lots of meetings." Then came the package. It was a Tuesday afternoon. The sky hung heavy with gray clouds, and I was folding laundry when the doorbell rang. A young delivery driver stood outside, holding a medium-sized brown box. "Package for Ion Khan," he said. My heart skipped. "He's traveling for work," I replied automatically. The driver checked his phone. "This is the delivery address on file. Signature required." I hesitated, then signed. The box felt heavier than I expected, its corners slightly worn, the tape uneven. No company logo, just my son's name, written in black marker. I placed it on the dining table and stared at it for a long time. Something felt wrong. That evening I called Ion. "You have a package here," I said lightly. A pause. "What package?" he asked. "I don't know, it just has your name." Another pause, longer this time. "Oh, it's probably nothing important," he said quickly. "Just leave it there, I'll check when I'm back." His voice sounded tense, forced, and that's when the small seed of doubt planted itself in my chest. Over the next few days, the package seemed to grow heavier, not physically, but emotionally. Every time I passed it, I felt a strange unease. On Friday night, curiosity got the better of me. I told myself I was just checking for something urgent, maybe documents, maybe fragile items. My hands trembled as I cut the tape open. Inside was a stack of envelopes, a small photo album, and a folded piece of paper. The first envelope contained medical bills. The second, hospital appointment letters. The third, test results. My breath caught as I read the hospital's name. It was local. Not in another city, not abroad, here. Right here. Confused and scared, I opened the photo album. Inside were pictures of Ion, standing beside a young woman I had never seen before. She was pale but smiling, wearing a hospital wristband in some of the photos. In one picture, Ion held her hand while she sat in a hospital bed. The folded paper at the bottom was a letter. "Mom, if you're reading this, it means the package arrived earlier than I expected. I didn't want you to worry, which is why I said I was traveling for work. Her name is Zara. She's been fighting leukemia for 2 years. We met through a volunteer program I joined last year. She doesn't have family nearby. I've been helping take care of her. She's scheduled for a risky surgery this week, and I wanted to be here for her without stressing you. I'm sorry for lying. I just didn't want you to carry this fear with me." Tears blurred my vision. He wasn't on a work trip. He was at a hospital, caring for someone who needed him. My first reaction wasn't anger, it was heartbreak. Not because he lied, but because he thought he had to carry such a heavy burden alone. The next morning, I went to the hospital listed on the letters. The hallway smelled like antiseptic and quiet hope. I followed the room number until I saw him. Ion sat beside Zara's bed, holding her hand gently. He looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes, shoulders heavy with worry. "Mom," he said, startled when he saw me. Guilt flashed across his face. "I can explain." I pulled him into a hug before he could finish. "You don't have to," I whispered. "I read the letter." He exhaled shakily, relief and shame mixing in his eyes. "I didn't want you to be scared," he said softly. "You should have trusted me to share the fear," I replied. He introduced me to Zara. She had kind eyes and a quiet strength that filled the room. Despite her illness, she greeted me with warmth. Over the next few days, I stayed with them. I brought home-cooked food, sat during long waiting hours, and watched my son show a level of compassion I had never fully seen before. The surgery day arrived like a storm cloud. Hours stretched endlessly as we waited outside the operating room. Ion barely spoke. He paced back and forth, hands shaking. I held his hand the way I used to when he was a child scared of thunderstorms. "You're not alone," I told him. When the doctor finally came out, his expression was calm but serious. "The surgery was successful," he said. Relief crashed over us like a wave. Zara's recovery was slow but steady. During that time, I learned more about my son, about his volunteer work, his quiet acts of kindness, and the emotional weight he had been carrying without telling me. One evening, as we sat together in the hospital cafeteria, I asked him gently, "Why didn't you tell me the truth from the beginning?" He stared into his coffee. "Because you've already worried enough about me my whole life," he said. "I didn't want to add more." I smiled sadly. "Worry is part of being a mother," I said, "but so is being proud." He looked up surprised. "Proud?" "I've never been more proud of you," I said. "You chose compassion over comfort. That's not something everyone can do." Months later, Zara recovered enough to leave the hospital. She started visiting our home often, slowly becoming part of our family dinners and celebrations. One afternoon, Ion confessed something else. "She's not just a friend anymore," he said, smiling shyly. I wasn't surprised. The mysterious package that once filled me with fear had actually revealed something beautiful. My son's strength, his kindness, and his ability to love deeply. Looking back, I realized the lie had never been about deception. It had been about protection. He wanted to shield me from pain, just as I had spent years trying to shield him. But we learned something important through it all. Love grows stronger when shared openly, even when it's scary. Now, whenever I see a delivery driver approach our door, I smile instead of worrying. Because sometimes, unexpected packages don't bring bad news. Sometimes, they bring the truth you didn't know you needed, and a reminder that the people you love are capable of incredible things. And every time I watch Ion and Zara laugh together in our living room, I think back to that heavy brown box on my dining table. The day fear arrived in a cardboard package and left behind a deeper understanding of my son's heart.